All right, so if you're planning on retiring at 65, as a man, you have an average of 19 years of retirement. As a woman, you will average 22 years of retirement. That means you got nearly 2 decades that you've got to fund your retirement if you're retiring at 65. Now, those are just averages. There's a good chance that you're going to need to extend that out to 30 years or maybe even longer. I think the standard is to plan your retirement for about 30 years if you're retiring, in your mid-60s. So here are some red flags that you may want to look at before going into retirement and take a good hard look at your retirement plan. One is that your retirement plan can be too vague, right? If you haven't identified what your money is for, that could be way too vague. You need to identify the dollars for your income that you're going to need for withdrawal. You're going to need to identify how much money you want for your bucket list items, your vacations, and things like that. You're going to need to identify your inheritance. How much do you want to leave in your legacy? And you need to identify what you're going to need for health insurance and long-term care and things like that. That all needs to be identified in the budget. Now, some of that, like the insurance, you may decide to self-insure. If you do, you better have a budget line item in there, later on in life for long-term care because you could need it. All right, and the second thing is guessing about your budget. Okay, now none of us really know before we go into retirement the exact money we're going to need. But you need to do better than just saying, I'm going to take, 80% of what I'm making now, and that's going to be my budget. Because things change. One thing is health insurance. If you're not getting health insurance from your employer, if you can't carry that over into retirement, and you have to go out and get it from the Affordable Care Act, or you have to buy it, it could be pretty expensive depending on what your income bracket's going to be. So when you base that, you need to make sure that you can afford the new health insurance cost, and you're probably going to want to do a lot more traveling and, like I mentioned before, your bucket list items. So you need to identify that in your budget as best you can. And you know what? I do have a website, and there's a link down to it in the description, and I have a kind of a budget format because it's pretty easy to write down a budget on what you think you need. And then it's another thing to just have clues and reminders of things that you may have forgotten that you need to budget for. I laugh about it, but my first budget when I ran through it, I actually forgot to put groceries in it. Yeah, I forgot we were going to need to eat, I did have an allowance for dining out. I had an allowance for odds and ends. I had, it was a pretty detailed budget, but I forgot groceries. Anyway, this is a budget checklist, and you can get it from down in my website that I built, doubletretired.com. All right, so I do want to remind you, I'm not a financial advisor. If you need professional help, please seek out a fiduciary fee-only financial advisor to build a retirement plan customized just for you. Okay, number 3 is having a risky retirement portfolio, right? So when we're younger, time is on our side, and we can just ride through the dips in the market and all that. We're not withdrawing funds. We're always adding into it. It's a lot different feeling than when you retire and you start withdrawing those funds. If you're managing your own 401ks and whatnot, you may need to take a look at it every once in a while. And if you're not rebalancing, your portfolio, you could get pretty far out of kilter. Now, like I say, when you're younger, it's not a big deal because stocks are going to outperform bonds. And you're going to go from, say you start out with a 70-30 portfolio, 70 stocks, 30 bonds, and eventually you're going to end up being an 80-20 and a 90-10 if you don't rebalance it and take some of the funds and put it back into the bonds. That's what they call rebalancing. So as you go into retirement, you need to take a look at your investment strategy because you may very well be at an 80-20 or 90-10 or something like that, and you need to rebalance that so that when the downfalls do come in the market, you can ride through those and you have some dollars in there to carry you through for a year or two. And that's a different strategy. It's called a bucket strategy. And we'll go into that in a different video, but you need to make sure that you got plenty of money in your bond funds to carry you through. So remember to go in and rebalance your portfolio. Okay, and the fourth item is having all your money in tax-deferred accounts. What do I mean by that? A traditional 401k, a traditional IRA, a traditional 403b, where you're going to have to pay taxes on the money as you draw it out. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because you want that in your strategy, because those tax-deferred accounts are going to put more money in the market and make more money as they come out. But if all of your money is in that, then that's going to throw you into a much higher tax bracket when you retire. So you need to have some diversification. And what do I mean by that? It can be having a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k where you have after-tax contributions. It could be having real estate, having some rental houses or something like that. It could also be having a pension that kind of offsets it a little bit. Now, that doesn't help you with the tax diversification, but a pension does help with diversifying your portfolio so you're not having to withdraw so much. Now, if you put everything into a 401k or 403b traditional and you're just locked in, you're that close to retirement, they do have what's called Roth conversions. And there are a lot of different rules on Roth conversions, so make sure you get some help with this one. And the Roth conversions can also help diversify your portfolio and help out with those tax brackets. And you have what's called required minimum distributions later on in your early 70s, early to mid 70s, that where you're going to have to start taking a certain amount of money out of your traditional 401k. The government's going to make you take it out. And that can really hurt you in taxes depending on how much you have in those accounts. So take a look at your Roth conversions and take a look at your RMDs. And again, if this is a little more than what you feel like you can tackle on your own, there's software out there. There's the New Retirement or Bolden software that can really help you out. And you could go out and get a fiduciary fee-only financial advisor. Again, get a customized plan built just for you. So I hope you've gotten something out of this video, and if you have, please reach down and hit that like button and watch this video next.